It is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. Members of the Council have before them document S/2026/273, which contains the text of a draft resolution submitted by Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. The Council is ready to proceed to the vote on the draft resolution before it. I now give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements before the vote. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Bahrain. أصحاب السعادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. تتقدم مملكة البحرين وبالنيابة عن كل من دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة والمملكة العربية السعودية ودولة قطر ودولة الكويت والمملكة الأردنية الهاشمية بمشروع القرار المعروض أمام مجلس الأمن اليوم، والمعني بتأمين الملاحة البحرية في منطقة الخليج العربي في استجابة حاسمة ومسؤولة لمواجهة تطورات خطيرة تمس أحد أهم الممرات المائية الحيوية للتجارة الدولية، وهو مضيق هرمز. إن أهمية مضيق هرمز الدولية تتجسد في أن
Strait is important because it goes through 38% of the trade of the whole world passes through, and the liquefied natural gas have been passing through it, and in addition to petroleum and which is important for manufacturing for developing countries. In addition to 30% of the helium, which is a very important thing for manufacturing electronics, in addition to the medicine that passes through the Strait, and also the food that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. And for this, so blocking the passage of this is reflected on the whole countries and the whole world. The GCC is the main source of the energy to the whole world, which makes the Strait of Hormuz a very important security matter that touches the stability of the economy in the whole world. And for this, we say, with a loud voice, that it's not the right for Iran to close this waterway in the face of navigation, and to make this effect on the people of the whole world, violating the international law and the law of the navigation. And today, if the strait is going to still be closed, and this is going to be repeated in several straits, and it will make the world desert, and no one is going to abide by any rule or by any international law. It's a crucial time. Iran continues its illegal attacks with ballistic missiles and drones on our countries, targeting the infrastructure of the civilians and buildings, in addition to the security of navigation. And the international law, and it's threatening the security in the region. And it should abide by the UN human rights L38 that was issued 2 weeks ago. The Iran Republic have to admire and respect the laws. It comes as a negative attitude. The UN have before condemned the closure of Strait in 1984. Iran is making economic blockade.
Regarding the closure and disruption of the Strait of Hormuz, rather than opting for diplomatic relations founded upon prioritizing mutual interests, reciprocal cooperation, and the principles of good neighborliness. The region has witnessed similar precedents in 2011, 2012, and 2019. Through the targeting of oil tankers and repeated statements regarding the use of the Strait of Hormuz as a political and economic bargaining chip. The draft resolution before you does not create a new reality. It rather constitutes a serious response to a pattern of recurring hostile Iranian behavior that must cease, and serves as an implementation of paragraph 6 of Resolution 552. 42 years after the adoption of Resolution 552, we urge the international community today, and this esteemed council specifically, to take a firm, serious, and resolute position against irresponsible practices that attempt, to no avail, to impose a unilateral economic encirclement upon the nations and peoples of the world. These practices and acts of aggression have transcended their regional impact, directly affecting the stability of the global economy and international food security. The World Food Programme has warned that the closure of the strait has driven up the costs of fuel, transport, and food. Furthermore, a continued closure of the strait could push nearly 45 million additional people into acute levels of food insecurity. A situation that demands urgent and responsible international action. Excellencies, in light of the global turbulence witnessed today, it is no longer possible to ignore the fact that the obstruction of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz represents a systematic pattern of behavior, one predicated on weaponizing this vital waterway as a tool for political pressure and leverage. Let us be clear. A failure to act today would entail grave consequences for the world and for humanity. It would embolden further violations of international law, undermine the credibility of the Security Council, and send a negative message, namely that Security Council resolutions may be disregarded with impunity. The economic and humanitarian crisis confronting us today poses a fundamental question to the Security Council and the international community. Will the international community accept being held hostage to attempts at economic blackmail, regardless of the perpetrator? Will your esteemed Council shoulder its responsibility to confront these blatant aggressions, which are actions that contravene international law, show no respect for its resolutions, and indeed completely disregard them? The adoption of this resolution by your esteemed Council today will send a strong and unified message on the other hand. A message that we stand united in upholding international law. That we will protect civilians, global trade, and food security. That we will safeguard the vital supply chains for advanced technology, thereby ensuring continued global technological progress for the well-being of humanity, and that we will not permit the vital international waterways are threatened or blocked. Excellencies, the Kingdom of Bahrain's non-permanent membership in the Security Council, coupled with our presidency of the Council during this current month of April, has placed us before a challenge of the utmost sensitivity, namely, to protect the interests of our affected nations and of the entire world, while simultaneously preserving the unity of the Security Council, ensuring that the Council remains united in its stances and resolutions. Consequently, and following continuous negotiations and extensive discussions, we have strived to ensure that this draft resolution is balanced, implementable, and capable of achieving the desired objectives. A united Council to ensure safe maritime navigation. We therefore urge all members of the Security Council to support this draft resolution for the Council's credibility, the security and stability of our region, the growth of the global economy, the preservation of food security and technological advancement. All depend upon the decision of your esteemed Council. Thank you.
I shall now make a statement. No, I did. I resume my function as President of the Council. I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2026/273 please raise their hand. Those against? Abstentions? The results. The result of the voting is as follows: 11 votes in favor, 2 votes against, 2 abstentions. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council. I now give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements after the vote. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Bahrain.
Your Excellencies, my country, the Kingdom of Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the State of Qatar, the State of Kuwait, and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan express their regret that the resolution presented before you today has not been adopted. The Council failed to shoulder its responsibility in relation to an illegal conduct that requires decisive action with no delay. We had hoped that the draft resolution would present a step towards a permanent solution that will ensure freedom of navigational freedom in the Strait of Hormuz as an international waterway that no country has the right to obstruct navigation in it according to international law. In this connection, we reiterate that the voice of international community as represented in this Council and its resolution 2718 of 2026, which expressed the imposition of obligations that should be implemented with no delay. Any inaction in this regard will undermine the credibility of the Council and emboldens to commit more violations. Accordingly, we call on the Islamic Republic of Iran to fully comply to these obligations and to constructively cooperate with the international community instead of continue to adopt policies of escalation and to employ ballistic missiles and launch drones against neighboring countries. The attacks that your Council has called for their stop and end, and we call on Iran to stop its attempts to create a reality that is based on threat, economic pressure by obstructing navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, as this will have consequences on energy, security, medicine, food supplies, international trade in the world at large. Your Excellencies, threats to navigational freedom and regional security are not subject to statute of limitation. These challenges are persistent, which require collective action and decisive action. Accordingly, we stress that our countries will continue to work in coordination with their partners and allies to ensure the navigational freedom and the protection of international maritime waterways, to prevent the recurrence of these threats, to ensure security of international economy and maintain interests of international community. The draft resolution, which has not been adopted by your esteemed Council, reflects an urgent response to serious developments which created a direct threat to freedom of maritime navigation and impacted the safety and stability of international trade, energy markets, and food and medicine supplies. The draft has also aimed to consolidate principles of international law in relation to navigational freedom and ensure that waterways are not used as bargaining ships or tools of blackmailing. Failing to adopt this resolution sends the wrong signal to the world, to the peoples of the world. The signal that the threat to international waterways can pass without any decisive action by the international organization responsible for the maintenance of international peace and security. Threat to close the Strait of Hormuz and using it as a pressure card before the world is not anything new. It is a repeated conduct used by Iran for decades. Every time it has been used, it had direct implications on global markets, energy security, and food supplies, and the lives of the peoples of the region. We consider that the inaction of the Council and its failing to address this situation decisively will lead to entrench this kind of conduct and behavior that is irresponsible and that is contravening with international law. It will expand the scope of risks, which is a threat to the stability of the world order. The Arab Gulf is not far from your countries, not in geography or economy. It is in the heart of your stability and prosperity. Its security is your security. And the Gulf countries are not only providing the energy supplies which move world economy, they contribute to the stability of the markets, and they support the supply chains, and they are a reliable investment and commercial partner, in particular the developing countries and countries of the South, which find themselves in the front line of those impacted by these crises. And they bear the disproportionate cost of any disruption in supply chains and disruption of energy markets. Our countries contribute to the development of future industries, including the supply chains and the associated technologies. We host communities of qualified people from all over the world. Your people are working side by side with ours in an environment based on security, dignity, equal opportunity, and aspired and shared future. Your Excellencies, failing to adopt the resolution today does not change the reality on the ground. It does not protect the civilian seafarers. It does not secure global supply chains. It does not ensure the free flow of energy and trade. It does not exempt those responsible for the violations of international law from accountability. It raises questions about the ability of this Council to assume its responsibility in maintaining international peace and security. Let us be clear. The attacks by Iran against the commercial vessels and its attempts to hinder the legitimate passage through the Strait of Hormuz is a flagrant violation to international law and the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. It is a direct threat to international peace and security. Failing to adopt this resolution does not give legitimacy to these actions, which adversely impact the interests of the peoples and states of the world. It does not weaken the existing legal obligations. It does not reduce or impair the right of states to take all necessary means to defend individually and collectively their sovereignty, security, stability, and interests, and the interests of the peoples and states of the region consistent with Article 51 of the Charter as enshrined in your Resolution 2817. Your Excellencies, the Kingdom of Bahrain regrets that the Council has not lived up to the moment to act in a unified manner as imposed by its legal responsibilities. Notwithstanding the response and the cooperation we have extended in relation to the amendments required by some states to be included in the draft resolution. This comes from our interest in maintaining unity of the Council. We reiterate, we will continue to work with our regional and international partners to ensure maritime freedom and navigational freedom, and to protect civilian lives, and to work with esteemed Council to compel Iran to implement immediately Resolution 2817. The credibility of the Council is today at stake. It's not an abstract concept. The credibility is measured by the ability of the Council to move decisively when the situation so requires. As to the responsibility, it remains to exist, and the Kingdom of Bahrain will continue to shoulder this responsibility alongside all those who uphold international law and those who believe in justice and the right of peoples to live in dignity and equality without fear from the future. Thank you.
I resume my function as President of the Council. I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your statement. In mine, I want to be clear. I want to be very clear that the United States stands with Bahrain. The United States stands with the people of the Gulf at this moment of reckoning. Colleagues, this is a time for choosing, and the countries that just opposed this resolution, led by the Kingdom of Bahrain, have chosen to oppose them. Just over 3 weeks ago, this Council adopted a resolution which garnered a record-setting, a UN record of 136 co-sponsors with no opposition in this Council. It was the most supported resolution in UN history, and that resolution clearly demanded that Iran immediately cease its attacks and threats against neighboring states and condemned its obstruction of safe civilian shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. As President Trump explained in his statement last week to the nation and the world, we are here because Iran's tyrannical regime has persisted for decades in escalating its attacks against the American people, our allies in the region, and the world's commercial fleets, in flagrant violation of international law and nearly a dozen resolutions from the United Nations Security Council. Colleagues, 47 years ago, the Iranian regime's first act was to take dozens of Americans hostage. Now, it's taking the Strait of Hormuz hostage, and with it, attempting to take the world's economy hostage. Well, colleagues, that may be its last act. We'll see. Iran has laid mines in the Strait. They are firing upon civilian commercial vessels. These vessels are carrying fertilizer, oil, medical supplies, other critical goods around the world. They are threatening the entire world with energy shortages, disrupted supply chains, and possibly even famine. The Iranian regime has deliberately chosen to broaden their war to the Gulf by firing on our allies, not just U.S. military bases, but shooting in all directions. Just against the United Arab Emirates alone, Iran has fired over 500 ballistic missiles, over 2,000 drones, dozens of sophisticated cruise missiles. Again, not against military targets, against resorts and ports and hotels and civilian neighborhoods, in absolute and flagrant violation of international law. The Kingdom of Bahrain has sustained thousands more ballistic missiles, drones, cruise missiles, again, against civilian neighborhoods. Iran has deliberately chosen to broaden their war even further. Iran's foreign minister, Araghchi, has stated now the Strait of Hormuz is now Iranian territory. That's quite the pronouncement. And that they will treat it as their own territory. Again, holding the world's economy hostage. This was their choice to deny the world oil that's needed to heat their homes, African and South Asian states who need grain and fertilizer to pass freely through the strait in time for planting season in spring. As we speak, colleagues, as we speak right now, 80 UN and international humanitarian groups delivering medical aid, shelter, supplies, and food to humanitarian crises in the Congo, in Sudan, in Gaza, cannot pass through the strait. No one should tolerate that they are holding the global economy at gunpoint. But today, Russia and China did tolerate it. They sided with a regime that seeks to intimidate the Gulf into submission, even as it brutalizes its own people during a national internet blackout for daring to imagine dignity or freedom. Now it seeks to punish the world as cynical leverage in its death to America approach to foreign policy. Colleagues, the blight Iran has inflicted upon us, you, and its own people, it did not begin on March 11th. It did not begin February 28th or even today. For nearly half a century, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, has built its reason for existence on the violent exporting of a revolution. It's built its reason for existence on intimidation and terror. And I commend Bahrain and everyone who voted with this resolution for saying enough is enough. It has attacked American embassies. It has murdered hundreds of American diplomats, service members, and civilians. It has bombed American barracks and businesses. It has tried to bomb our cities. It has even repeatedly conspired and failed to assassinate the President of the United States. The perpetrator of that Iranian plot was just convicted right down the street in Brooklyn in an American court. Thank God. This year alone, multiple agents of the Iranian government were convicted and intercepted in other plots to kill the president and an American-Iranian dissident who spoke right here at this council, Masa Alinejad, all in clear violation of Security Council Resolution 1373, which prohibits states from supporting acts of terror. 47 years and counting, colleagues, Iran has campaigned against peace in the region by any means necessary. Just this January, it slaughtered tens of thousands of its own citizens, as we discussed right here in this council. But yet, the regime then promised no more executions on its citizens. But what are they doing? Violating that promise, and instead are slaughtering, on average, 1 Iranian per day. People who dare to protest their own government. Iran has also armed terrorist proxies, targeted civilians, strangled shipping lanes, and destabilized governments. As a 2019 UN Secretary General report affirmed, it has hidden and encouraged its proxies to hide behind civilians and civilian infrastructure to attack Americans and our allies. The Secretary General himself affirmed Iran hides military hardware in hospitals and schools and civilian neighborhoods for propaganda purposes in the most sick and despicable way. Don't take that from me. Take that from the Secretary General and his own report. And now, according to the UN's UNICEF, the IRGC is